Ouija boards, would you work for me?
Welcome, everyone, to Weird World. We start today our Halloween season, Halloween extravaganza, Halloween-tacular,
Spooky season.
Halloweenectomy. That doesn't make sense.
Weird World.
Weird World. That's right. You did that
Yes.
just last year, and I totally forgot about it until just now. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's the beginning of Weird World, where for the entire month of October, we do some episodes a little scarier, a little creepier. Today, we're going to start off with a weird bit from Carrie, whose name is Carrie. Mine's
My
Dean,
name
by the
is
way.
Carrie.
Okay.
It's just the two of us.
Yes, it is.
So lonely over here.
That sounds
We
sad.
are going to talk about the history of the Ouija board,
That's spooky.
which
So-
I always call Ouija.
I know,
Ouija,
I
Ouija?
grew up calling it Ouija too, but it must be Ouija.
It must be. Well, in fact, the Ouija board basically came about initially during the middle of the 19th century here in America, where people were obsessed with spiritualism.
That wasn't the actual, literally the Ouija board. That was just sort of the talking board.
Beginnings of it, yes.
Oh, so like
Yeah.
the pre or okay, got it.
And spiritualism,
Yeah.
as you may know,
Which
is
we have promised many times to talk about. We will eventually. We'll talk about the Fox sisters and
Yep.
the birth of spiritualism, just not right now.
where people believed that they could communicate with the dead. And spiritualism had already been around for a while in Europe, but as Dean just mentioned, the Fox sisters, they were kind of the beginnings of it in America in 1948.
1848.
Oh, you're right, 1848, where we'll talk about them in detail, but they basically claimed that they could communicate with spirits by rapping on walls and, hearing tip taps and all that kind of stuff.
Tip taps is the scientific word, yes.
Yep. They became very famous and they became the subject of national news. And actually, spiritualism became a worldwide phenomenon.
Mostly in the English-speaking world, but yes, other countries as well. It was huge. They really did start what eventually would become more or less a major religion
Yep.
with many millions and millions of adherents. But of course, many of them also were Christian or other religions.
Yes. And it
They
was
just-
kind of acceptable.
for the most part.
And it still fit with Christian
Yeah.
religious dogma. And also it was acceptable socially.
Oh,
It wasn't fringy. You weren't a weirdo for going to a seance and thinking that you could talk to your dead uncle or whatever.
It's all the rage.
They would have seances where, they were trying to contact spirits and they used things like automatic writing, table turning parties.
Yes.
And
Which sounds funner than it actually sounds. Wait, what?
I mean, it's kind of like what we did with the kids
We
at
did
one
that with
time.
our kids. It was horrible. It scared the
Yep.
shit out of them. It scarred them for life. But they've more or less gotten over it, question mark.
Yeah.
But it's you can see how easy it. Well, then again, it was easy for us to do to a 4 and 6 year old, but to do it to other. I mean, there has to be a sense of let's agree to have fun with this kind of thing. It's like remember
Well,
did
I
you
don't
do
know.
tipping? We did things like where the light as a feather, stiff as a board, kind of
Yep.
thing like that. It's along those lines.
And,
fun.
back in these days, people didn't live much beyond the age of 50. Women routinely died in childbirth. Half of your kids might not survive childhood. And then, of course, comes the Civil War. Everybody had loved ones who were dead that they wanted to communicate with. It seems like that's always been true and will always be true, but in certain parts of history, it's more true.
In the U.S., the
Given-
Civil War, yeah, I mean,
yes,
that was,
wars and stuff like that.
That was hundreds of thousands. Of
Mary
people.
Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's wife, she conducted seances in the White House because they had a child who had died of a fever in 1862.
Willie.
And then, of course, during the Civil War, tons of people turned to spiritualism to try to talk to their dead soldiers or loved ones who just hadn't come home.
How about, I wonder if anybody tried to talk to their leg or arm that was amputated. Just
I don't know. Would you talk to your leg or arm?
you could
when
rap.
It's still
There's no reason
connected
you
to your
couldn't,
body.
kick 3 times, stomp 3 times. If that's you, leg. I
What
would.
What would you want to know?
How you doing?
Okay.
Did I really need to cut you off? I'm sorry about it. I apologize. The doctor did it when I was unconscious.
Well, spiritualism was growing in the American culture, and it wasn't a quick thing to hear from your loved one. You'd have to go to a séance and try to connect with your loved one. People were looking for an easier, quicker way to do this. So somebody, and I think that, like you said, talking boards were already a thing. Yeah. And I think the Fox sisters did this. They would write out the alphabet on the table, and then it's, a
use
spirit,
a planchette too, something to point to the letters. So everything was there for the Ouija board.
Or people would also say the alphabet. A, B, C, and wait for a knock on the wall something, a sound from the spirit. And somebody would have to write down the letter after they heard the knock. So these things were tedious and they took time. So somebody decided, let's make this nice little board, a wooden board where we'll spell out all the letters. And so in 1890, a man named Charles Kennard got together a group with 4 other investors, 2 of whom included Elijah Bond, who was a local attorney, and Colonel Washington Bowie, who was a surveyor. And they started the Kennard Novelty Company exclusively just to make the Ouija board and market it.
So basically, Kennard, I don't know, said, let's make a board. But the thing, really, it had already existed. It was just on a table. And okay.
But they didn't have the name yet. It wasn't called a Ouija board. It was just still a talking board.
Okay. It had the letters. We should explain what a Ouija board is, by the way. Okay.
None of these guys were spiritualists. So they didn't really believe in what it could do.
They were capitalists.
They were 100% setting out to make money.
They're just like every single person who these days makes some kind of website that does some kind of service. They almost always, they have zero passion for what they're doing. They aren't connected to what they're doing in any way, shape, or form. They just thought of or paid someone who thought of an idea, and now they're going to make money out of it. They're probably MBAs.
Well, they didn't have, like I said, they didn't have a name for it yet. And popular belief is, Dean, what do you think Ouija means?
I've always understood it means yes and yes. Yes, we, yes in French, and ja, or ja, yes in German.
German, yep. Nope.
No?
Elijah Bond's sister-in-law was a cultured, educated woman named Helen Peters. He also called her a strong medium. And one night, they were all hanging out together in Baltimore, sitting around a table with a talking board. And they had Helen there, who, she had strong medium powers.
She's a strong medium. It's like a short tall. You could order a strong medium coffee at
Well, so they decided they'll ask the board. What's your name, board? So they did, and it spelled out Ouija.
Okay, so
Ouija.
But that still does literally mean French and German, yes and yes.
Then they asked it. What does that mean? And the board replied, it means good luck.
Does it?
Now, the story also goes that Helen Peters was also wearing a locket with a picture of a woman, and above the woman's head was the name Ouija, Ouija.
That's a cool
but
name,
some people think it wasn't. Some people think it was a woman who Helen Peters probably admired because she was a famous author and a women's rights activist who went by the name Ouida, Ouida.
Oh. And so someone misread it when they're spelling it out.
Kennard or Bond or somebody.
Went to okay.
That's what they think.
So whoever was controlling the planchette, Kennard or Bond, looked at the locket, saw Ouida, thought it was Ouija. And, okay. That's interesting.
So they have their talking board. They have a great name for it. Ouija sounds great. But they also, so they wanted to get a patent for it. They knew that they wouldn't be able to get a patent for it if they couldn't prove that it actually worked.
Oh, that's going to be hard.
So they decided, let's bring Helen with us. right? She can prove that it works. She's a medium. So they go to the patent office in Washington, and Elijah Bond is the attorney. So he brings her. I've heard differing stories. One story I heard said, the first patent clerk says, forget it. I'm not putting my name on that thing. They talk to another patent clerk who says same thing. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to deal with that application. Finally, they get to the head of the patent office, and the chief patent officer says, okay, prove it to me. Give me a demonstration. If it can correctly spell out my name, which we don't know each other, you don't know my name, then I'll go ahead and approve, allow your application to proceed. So they all sit down with Helen, the strong medium there. And of course, obviously, the planchette spells out the guy's name.
Which was?
Unknown to anybody.
Of course.
And the man was white-faced, flabbergasted. Of course, stamp on your application.
Forgot all about his name placard on the desk right behind him.
So this was February 10th, 1891. Elijah Bond was awarded the patent for his new, it was called, toy or game.
Or they gave him $50.
Yes. And so the patent does not explain how it works, just says that it works.
That really has absolutely no business being patented. That's embarrassing.
I know, it is silly.
I'm going to go with they gave him $50.
Yeah, I don't think patents are quite that easy to get these days. So in February of 1891, they started advertising for Ouija, the wonderful talking board, and it basically describing it as a magical device that answers questions, quote, about the past, present, and future with marvelous accuracy and never failing amusement and recreation for all the classes.
So they're playing it up to a mass audience and not super religious or spiritual. So they didn't even say overtly that you're speaking to the dead. Somehow it answers these questions.
Yes. And they said a link between the known and unknown, the material and immaterial.
That's very good.
So,
it's clear what they're implying, but they don't want to be super, because that could have pissed some people off or upset some.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very, modern.
They were smart,
in a sense.
And then in an advertisement in a New York newspaper, it declared it interesting and mysterious and said, as proven at the patent office before it was allowed.
Okay.
Guess how much they sold it for?
They sold it to, Kennard Company was formed to...
No, how much it cost to buy a Ouija board?
24 cents.
$1.50.
Whoa. That's not cheap.
No.
I'm guessing.
Well, I don't know.
In 1891?
But basically, it looked essentially like it looks today. It's a flat board. It was originally wood. Now it's pressed, press board or whatever, cardboard.
Cardboard, yeah.
But it's a flat board with the letters arranged in kind of like semicircles above a line of numbers, 0 through 9. And then the words yes and no in the upper right and left corners. And then in the middle at the bottom, it says goodbye.
See, I always thought that it should have been yes, no. But that'd be we nine if it was our, our...
It should be yes, no.
Both in French, we non or something like that.
Yeah.
But because yes doesn't make any sense. So it does actually make more sense than the origin of the name that you said. Huh.
Yeah.
And so Ouija is just literally an apocryphal assignment of after the fact. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it does look, I will say, I always thought it was very well done in terms of it does look right. It has that kind of spooky colors. The color scheme is almost kind of spooky. It's that tannish light brown, and it gets a little darker on the corners, the moon
looks
and the
weathered.
sun. Is it a moon and a sun? Or it's like a half moon or a crescent moon of some sort, I think, on the classic one.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It does look mysterious.
Yeah. And it's funny at the bottom where it says goodbye. It's like there's like a little sketch of two men shaking hands or something.
My guess is the goodbye, because the goodbye is not in the modern ones have numbers down there now.
No, I think the modern one has goodbye.
I'm looking at one right now.
There's no goodbye?
I don't see it. It says it has the let me see. Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. It was cropped out.
Yeah.
So it does say goodbye. My guess is that, and tell me if you know, is that's when they wanted to just sort of the spirit said, "I'm signing off. I'm done talking to you guys."
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
in a little bit.
Because spirits, I mean, think about a poor spirit being called. It's like
Yeah.
you're doing something up there in heaven or
Yeah.
the other place. And you're always bugged by people trying to contact you. Maybe you're busy. Okay, I'll answer a couple of questions, and then you just go goodbye. And
I'm done.
They know
Yep.
to stop.
It's rude to just hang up without saying goodbye.
You say
So,
goodbye, but
yeah.
it's pretty clear you're done.
Yeah.
Don't, at least wait a week or two before you call me again.
And then the little device now, it's made out of plastic. It's like kind of teardrop shaped or heart shaped. It's called a planchette,
Okay.
and now it's got a little window in it. The original one was kind of just it was teardrop shaped, but it was basically a pointer.
Yeah.
You
just
would
a
point to it.
And that could cause some confusion. So the window thing, it makes a lot more
Yeah.
sense.
So and like now, I think the bottom little legs of it have little felt tips, so it's easy to kind of slide
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So the idea is at least two people sit at a table with this thing and they rest their fingertips. They rest it on the planchette, and then somebody would pose a question. And then some way the spirits would guide the planchette around
Yeah.
the board to spell out an answer or say yes or no or whatever.
So the quickest way is, of course, the yes, no. But if you want to know someone's name or something specific, you have to laborious. So it's not. It still can be time consuming.
Yes.
Have you ever done a Ouija?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And it can be a little
Yeah.
time consuming.
And, probably 99% of the sessions in American households go the same, with the first 20 minutes of everybody accusing each other of
Yeah.
pushing the thing.
You know what usually is first nothing happens.
Yep.
And then after a few minutes, somebody gets sick of that and kind of
Starts-
nudges us out somewhere. And then people are a little, oh my God, no, you did that right. Oh, I know. You totally did that.
And then if two people decide to try to do it, then they're kind of fighting with each other to
That's
push
which
it.
is phenomenal.
Yep.
It just breaks and it snaps. Can we get a 5x7 Ouija board area rug on Amazon for $70 right now?
There is a giant one.
I'm looking
Ouija
at it right
board
now. It's
somewhere.
5x7.
Oh.
It's exactly the Ouija board, exactly the print.
Sure.
I really want that.
Where are you going to put it?
I don't know.
Well, this Ouija board was an instant success. By 1892, the Kennard Novelty Company, which had only one factory in Baltimore, added two more in Baltimore, two in New York, two in Chicago, and one in London.
All
Yeah.
making Ouija. Yeah. Spiritualism. Actually, if anything, spiritualism was even more popular in England than it
Yeah.
was in America pretty soon. It blew up there. Wasn't the Queen allegedly
Queen Victoria.
trying to speak to her dead husband or
Yes,
something like that?
she did. This was in, I think, before even the Ouija board was a thing. She and Prince Albert were a fan of seances. They would have seances even before Albert died.
Oh.
And then,
Did she have any kids that night?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And then after Albert died, of course, everybody knows Queen Victoria was heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And some little boy in Leeds, I think, said that I think by that time it might have been Ouija boards might have existed. I don't know. But he said that Prince Albert came, spoke to him through whatever and had a message for Queen Victoria using a pet name for Queen Victoria that supposedly only she and Prince Albert knew that he called her.
Num num.
But the
I think it was
little
Num
boy
Num.
in Leeds knew what it was. So when he got his message to Queen Victoria, she, of course, invited him to the Buckingham Palace or wherever she was.
He says, num num, do that thing to little Bertie you do so well. And she blushed, but she was very impressed.
So everybody knew Queen Victoria was into this. And then supposedly after one of her daughters died, some other medium got a message to Queen Victoria from the daughter.
Sure.
Why they wouldn't just go straight to Victoria themselves, I don't know. But
You got to go through a medium.
I
Mediums
suppose
are
so.
connected to the immaterial world.
So they marketed the Ouija board, it was this mystical thing, but also as family entertainment, just fun,
Yeah.
Everybody play with it. And in fact, spiritualists didn't like the board,
Well, it sidestepped them. You can just do it at
Exactly.
home.
Yep. It kind of cut them out as the middleman.
Literally talk to the spirits directly instead of going through a medium.
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious for a medium to accuse other people.
I
of
know.
fraud and deceit of all people. Did you ever? I mean, I played with it as a kid, and you play with it as young adults and drunk. And did you ever think of it as, literally, this might communicate?
No.
With, do you think my feeling was that Or I think everybody that I know that ever messed with it was just like, this is just fun. Let's have fun. But I'm sure there are people who take it pretty seriously.
I have to think like when we were playing with it, like in late elementary school, maybe middle school.
Wow, that was dangerous.
I think there were plenty of silly girls that believed in it. And if you like read these online articles about all of this stuff, about the origins of the Ouija board and stuff, the articles or the websites that have comments sections, a great majority of them are from people saying they believe in them. And they're
Emma.
dangerous.
It's exactly. Emma,
Yeah.
we were talking about this the other day, and we were saying, oh, I'm not going to mess with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
It's, I don't believe in
Crazy.
it, but it scares the shit out of me, that kind of
Exactly. If you don't believe it, why are you scared? No, we had a Ouija board. Nothing ever happened. Yeah. There was nothing bad.
It felt like everybody had a Ouija board.
Yeah. Well, so we kind of alluded
Monopoly,
to earlier.
now, that's terrifying, but Ouija.
Well, we alluded to earlier, it tends to be most popular when things aren't going so well in the country. Yeah. So when people are, looking for answers and all that kind
Like
of stuff.
sales, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Huh. So in the 1910s and 20s, with after World War I, and like the Jazz Age and Prohibition and everything's kind of wacky, sales went up then, and it became such a normal thing and so well known that Norman Rockwell actually, in one of his illustrations in 1920, depicted a man and a woman doing a Ouija board.
Really?
And it was on the cover of Saturday Evening Post. And then, of course, during the Depression, this was after the company had been sold to a Canadian company, the Fold Company, FULD.
During the Depression, you mean?
Uh-huh. Well, I don't know when it was sold, but by the Depression, they were operating it, and they had to open new factories.
During the Depression?
Yes.
Wow.
To meet the demand for everybody wanting the Ouija boards.
Were people asking questions like, will I have food tomorrow?
I have no idea.
Will I be a hobo?
Over a 5-month period in 1944, which we know what was going on in 1944.
No. Oh.
World War II.
Yeah, thanks.
A single New York department store sold 50,000 Ouija boards.
Jesus. So this was, like I said, I feel like it seems like everybody had a Ouija board.
Yep. In 1966, Parker Brothers bought the game from the Fold Company. The next year, 1967, they sold 2 million Ouija boards.
If you had 2 board games in your house, they were Ouija and Monopoly.
Yeah, and guess which sold fewer?
Monopoly. Wow.
They outsold Monopoly. And what was going on in the late 60s? Vietnam.
It was also sometimes called Vietnam Monopoly.
The whole counterculture, things were...
That's kind of the double impact there, isn't it?
Race riots. I mean, all kinds of...
Not that.
Of uproar in the United States. And then in 1991, Parker Brothers was sold to Hasbro. And so they have been making the Ouija board ever since then.
Is it still a big seller?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how big it is now. But
I want sales figures.
I think it is probably a pretty big seller. Because things, there's been movies and stuff like that. And it would show up every now and then in news stories. In 1921, the New York Times reported that a Chicago woman had been sent to a psychiatric hospital, and she was trying to explain to her doctors that she wasn't suffering from, mania or any kind of illness, that it was the Ouija spirits that told her to leave her mother's dead body in the living room for 15 days before burying her in the backyard.
How dare you blame Ouija for that?
In 1930, 2 women in Buffalo, New York had murdered another woman, and supposedly because they were encouraged to do so by the Ouija board. And then in 1941, a 23-year-old gas station attendant from New Jersey told the New York Times that he joined the army because the Ouija board told him to. Okay. And then in 1958, a Connecticut court decided not to honor the, quote, Ouija board will of a Mrs. Helen Dow Peck because in her will, she left only $1,000 to two former servants and $152,000 to Mr. John Gale Forbes, who was very lucky, but he was also a spirit who contacted her via the Ouija board. So he didn't actually exist. So I wonder, did the judge just divide all the money between the two servants? Hopefully. And then do you remember the I Love Lucy episode with the Ouija board where Lucy and Ethel are doing a seance? I don't know who they're trying to fool somebody.
And Tilly.
Yep. But they're doing it in a very, obviously it's I Love Lucy. So it's just being very silly and jokey. And that's usually in those days, that's how the Ouija board was depicted if it was on TV or in a movie. It was silly. It was a game. It was,
But still, Saturday Night Review of the 1920s, I Love Lucy in the 1950s, that's an indication of how mainstream this thing was.
Yes, it was very mainstream.
I found one thing that says that this very conservative estimate is that there's been at least 25 million Ouija boards sold since first invented.
25 million?
130 years ago. Yeah, that's almost certainly very conservative.
I was going to say that sounds kind of low.
They acknowledge this is, almost bottom rung conservative, but it's minimum 25 million.
Well, what do you think the scientists say?
About Ouija?
Yeah.
I think they say it's absolutely legit and you should do it to talk to your dead peoples.
Well, actually, they say, nah, they're not actually powered by spirits or even demons, because a lot of people think they're demonic.
They're powered by hands.
Well, they do know they work on a principle known as the idiometer effect. And that's basically where your body makes minute little movements, even if you're not intending them to.
Yeah, it's the same. Scientists explain whatchamacallit with the stick.
Oh, dowsing.
Dowsing, water witching.
Yep.
With the same exact ideas. And when you want to explain it as not purposeful fraud, that's the explanation you use. The other one is obviously what I personally have done and friends of mine have done, which is you go ahead and give a little nudge.
Yeah. Well, in 1852, a physician and physiologist actually published a report on the idiometer effect. These are automatic muscular movements that take place without the conscious will or volition of the individual.
Is it because you're sort of just holding your hand in place for a length of time, right? Like with dowsing, you have your hand on this stick and you're gripping it for a while. With Ouija, you have your hand on the edge of this planchette and you're holding it there for a while, and it's just.
I guess. I mean, think about it. When you're trying to stay still for a while, your body.
I feel like that's what it is. It's not. It's like they're not happening like all day every day. But when you're trying to hold your hand on something and hold it still, these tiny little motions occur. Yeah. But you would have to ask yourself for that to be true. It's one thing for dowsing where the stick just kind of flips around more or less randomly and say that way's water, and since there's almost always water somewhere, you find water once in a while. But in terms of Ouija board, if you're spelling out, if you're going to yes or going to no, or you're going and spelling a sequence of letters that form an actual word, that can't be the idiometer effect. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
They explain it that way, but it doesn't make sense.
That is what they say. And other researchers looking into the idiometer effect looked at other things like table turning, and they found out that it's pretty much the same thing.
See, sometimes science has a way of trying to explain something that needs no further explanation.
Yeah.
The simplest answer is almost always the right answer, and to scientists, idiometer effect is the simplest answer. To any other rational person, the simplest answer is that someone's just moving that goddamn planchette.
Well, let's talk about some research that was done into it.
Into idiometer?
Into the actual Ouija. Well, so there's also the social context around the whole Ouija board, and because it's a group of people, and so it's like everyone is having some sort of influence on it. So this group did some research into it, because one of the researchers had a Halloween party and the theme of his Halloween party was fortune telling. So there were a bunch of foreign students there. So he was trying to explain to them how the Ouija board worked. They hadn't ever seen one before. Okay. They kept asking, where do you put the batteries and stuff like that.
Because they're
so he just gave like a silly mystical explanation of how it works to them. didn't tell them anything about the idiometer effect and just left them to play with it. They played with it for hours.
Wow.
And when he came back to see what they were doing, they were still doing it and they were kind of freaked out. They thought that it was working. And later he asked them about it and they really thought that it was working. And so, he talked to his team of researchers. So they thought, let's look into this like non-conscious, moving of the thing. So
You see, there's a huge assumption going on here
what?
that it was non-conscious because he asked them and they said,
Well, sure.
we didn't do it on purpose. He goes, wow, I got to figure this out.
Well, so their first experiment, they used a robot, a Ouija playing robot. So the participants in the test were told they were playing with a person in another room, like via teleconferencing. And they said the robot was mimicking the movements of the person in the other room. And in actuality, the robot's movements were just amplifying the
Their
participants' movements. Okay. So there was no other person in another room. So they were asked a series of yes or no questions, and they were fact-based. So there, was a real answer, like is Buenos Aires the capital of Brazil and stuff like that.
Or Argentina.
And then they were expected to say yes or no based on,
got it. Okay.
So when the participants were asked to guess, to the best of their ability, they were right around 50% of the time, which is a typical result of people guessing at answers, right? 50-50.
If you assume they don't know any answer.
Yes.
You'd have to assume they don't know every answer for that.
Correct.
To be true. Okay.
So when they answered the questions using the Ouija board, believing that the answers were coming from someplace else, they were more correct. It was over 65% of the time when they believed that they were doing it via the Ouija board.
And they had a control group that was more like 50% of the time?
Yes.
Okay.
When they just asked them questions, right? Not using the Ouija board.
Oh, okay.
They just asked them questions.
Same questions, different groups? Sorry,
I don't know.
I'm worried about the operationalization of the methodology
you can
here.
Read the abstract later. But so then something happened to the robot. The robot couldn't keep going. So then they decided to do it with an actual real human. And what they would do is at some point, the two people would be in the room. The one person is a participant and the other person is a subject, right? So at some point during the thing, they would blindfold the person that they're testing and tell them, you're both still doing the thing. And so then the other person who's in on the whole thing would just take their hands off of the planchette. So really only the person who thinks there's two of them doing it, they're doing it by themselves. And they basically got the same results. They would be 65% better, or they would be, they would answer the questions more correctly than
if they thought someone was helping them, they were more accurate.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, all this tells you is, or what this tells them is that people are smarter than they think they are.
Yeah. Probably.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
So I think, when you're taking the SATs, bring your Ouija board.
Yes, that should be allowed. I feel like
I know.
it would be.
I think so too. So anyway, you talked about the goodbye and all that kind of stuff. Real quickly, the last thing I want to talk about is the rules for using the Ouija board.
There are rules?
There are rules. Rule number 1, never use the board alone.
Very, very good rule. Or with an imaginary friend.
Although I listened to some podcasts about Ouija boards and people who claim to be, sensitive or mediums or whatever. Of course you can use it by yourself.
Don't
There's
be
nothing wrong
stupid.
with it. Of course you can.
Knock yourself out.
It's all about intuition and all that kind of stuff. Number 2, never use the board in a graveyard.
I'm going to say Parker Brothers wrote these rules.
Meaning either a graveyard or somewhere where a violent murder took place, because it could be a gateway for a malevolent entity to come through the veil.
We've seen it happen.
Yes. That's how you get demons and stuff. Rule number 3, never try to burn the Ouija board. A lot of people, in the comment section of websites said, it freaked us all out and we tried to burn it and it wouldn't burn. And,
you didn't try hard enough. He's got an anti-inflammable something on that. Parker Brothers has been smart enough to put something anti-inflammable on the, the sheen over the baseboard.
Well, one comment actually said, every time my dad comes in the room, if the Ouija board is in the room, it lights itself on fire.
Okay, well.
But then clearly it doesn't burn because the next time dad comes in the room, it lights itself on fire again. That's hilarious. Well, they say the Ouija board is said to scream if you try to burn it.
Oh,
and the common belief is that anyone who hears it will have only 36 hours to live.
Ooh, now they're getting pretty dark.
And burning a Ouija board doesn't work anyway, according to stories, because it always ends up back in the owner's home intact, kind of like the Jumanji game, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
The common wisdom is you have to break it into 7 pieces, sprinkle it with holy water, and then bury it.
Is sage involved?
Maybe an olive branch.
From the Holy Land,
Yes.
obviously.
Number 4, never leave the planchette on the board
Really?
unattended.
Wow, I bet that's happened.
Because that little window, it might allow things to enter our world.
The window,
Through
so a
the
tiny piece of
unattended.
plexiglass is a portal to hell. I
Yep.
did not know that.
And
there are millions of them.
It
so
goes without
that's
saying
terrifying.
the reason why. Never ask it when you're going to die.
Oh, obviously. That's just, first of all,
Yes.
that's too dark. You're trying to have some fun with your friends. Don't do that. Don't bring
I
it down.
heard a lot of people
Really?
were told when they were going to die. And of course, many people had stories of it saying, you're something like your mom is going to die and 2 of your siblings or something. And then, of course, this person said their mom and their 2 little sisters were killed in a car accident.
Yeah, that happened.
And then the last rule is about the goodbye.
Oh.
Always say goodbye.
Oh, that's you saying goodbye to the spirit?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was the spirit saying goodbye to you. Can the spirit say goodbye to you?
Probably.
Okay.
But-
I mean, like the answer a yes or no question, and it says goodbye. It's like, oh, I get the hint.
Yeah. But this is closing the board, and it's very important because it shuts the door to the other side and prevents any lingering spirits from interfering in your life. If you don't say goodbye, they're still going to be around.
Did not even realize that. So if you don't say goodbye and shut the board, that spirit is like stuck in your house, bored shitless. So
not
one
only
asking the questions.
Yep. Not only do you need
terrible.
to say goodbye, you should first thank the spirits and say goodbye.
Yes.
And then the planchette should move down to the word goodbye on the board. And then you can safely put it back in your box. If the spirit doesn't say goodbye back to you, you need to say it again.
Oh.
Thank you and goodbye. And then pass the planchette through the flame of a candle.
Okay, that sounds dangerous. I want to play Ouija with someone, and then when it's ready to say, when you say goodbye, and the spirit is supposed to say goodbye, I want to make sure that planchette goes nowhere near the word goodbye, and they just freak out and they think they're going to.
I
be
can't
possessed.
believe we never bought a Ouija board for our kids.
Wow, that was an oversight.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
We had one, and I have looked for it, over the years when I've been back at my mom's, and I don't know what happened to it.
Well, if we were to get a 5x7 area rug,
I know.
I'm just
I don't know.
that can make up for it.
Well, and, over the years, Hasbro has made, glow-in-the-dark Ouija boards. They've made pink Ouija boards for girls,
Okay, well,
which
that's
is just
sexist.
gross.
I like glow-in-the-dark. I want a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board now.
Yeah.
Damn, that sounds spooky.
They also, I think I saw a thing where they made it was probably a limited edition where it looked like real weathered wood and, it looked a little bit more authentic.
Yeah, the first one was just sort of thin wood.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that didn't fold. You couldn't fold that? What the hell?
No.
That's a problem. I guess you for sure had to take that planchette off.
Yeah.
There, though. Okay.
I want to find a real cool looking Ouija board
Okay.
and get one.
Not an area rug version of that?
No, I don't want an area rug version. I mean, you can have the area rug version, but
Thank you.
I want to, really freak out our grandkids when we have them.
Oh, yeah, good idea. That's a good idea. That's good. That's good grandparenting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for starting off Hollow Weird World with
You're
a
welcome.
bang. A Ouija bang. Doesn't make sense. As an interesting story of the Ouija board. We will be bringing you a story that has a little bit later in the month on, has a starting point.
Yep.
relevant to the Ouija board.
Mine is the fun and fluffy part of the Ouija.
There's no fun and fluffy in the story.
There is a part in American history where it takes a very dark turn.
Okay. That sounds interesting. What are you talking about? Talking about the thing I'm going to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's American history. It's an event that occurred.
Well,
Okay. You made us. I was like, what? Is it a war or something I don't know about? The Ouija War? Very cool name for a war, by the way. But no.
yeah, it would be.
Yes, we'll have that on either next week or the week after. And hopefully you have a great Halloween season with us. Talk to you later. See you guys.
Bye.
I've got to say hello to an old friend. Ouija board, Ouija board, Ouija board, would you work for me? I have got to get through to a good friend. Well, she has now gone from this unhappy planet with all the carnivores and the destructors on it. Ouija board, Ouija board, Ouija board, would you help me? Because I still do feel so horribly lonely. Would you Ouija board, would you Ouija board, would you help me? And I just can't find my place in this world.